Well, it's close to Halloween, so I thought I would tell a ghost story. And this is a true ghost story that happened to me. And if you really listen to this, feel into what I'm talking about, you might find that it also happened to you in one form or another. So when I was probably 4, 5, 6 years old, I started to notice that I was able to play with this certain kind of new toy. This toy was a kind of shape-shifting toy. It could be different types of toys. I could play with it when I wanted to, if I wanted to distract myself from whatever was happening in the moment. Maybe I felt lonely or, bored perhaps. But this new toy was like, oh, I can kind of use it to entertain myself in some strange way. But it was always there. It was like a toy that I didn't have to go find. I was kind of carrying it around with me. And the strange thing about it is no one really talked about it. No one said, hey, here's a toy and handed it to me. I just sort of found it. And I liked it. I remember I could play with this toy and it could be anything I wanted it to be. And in a sense, I could be anything I wanted to be through the toy. And then I noticed that I was playing with the toy a lot. I noticed that it was getting harder to put it down, or actually, even more strangely, I would find myself just playing with it without even realizing it. I would find myself in the middle of like some kind of fantasy play with this toy and not even recognize I was doing that as such. And I would notice like, oh, wow, I'm playing with the toy again. And then it became clear that I was doing it more and more. And then this strange thing happened where it was hard to put the toy down. Like if I tried to put it down, I would like find it back in my hand. Like I would suddenly find myself playing with it again. And it was sticky. It was almost like a sticky toy. Like it didn't want to leave me. Like somehow I had invested in it and now it was sort of demanding my attention. Like it was not going to let me go, even if I wanted to let it go. So then it started to feel different than it did at first. It didn't feel so much like a relief or like some kind of toy. It felt like a confusing sort of sticky, apparatus that I was kind of like stuck to. I had some sort of relationship with it. And again, I didn't actually talk about this. I didn't mention it to my parents. I didn't, it was the kind of thing where it was just so personal in a way, or it was the kind of toy that was like almost internal, or was internal, that I didn't think in terms of, hey, maybe I should talk to my mother or father about the fact that this feels uncomfortable or something feels off about it. And then I remember almost like pushing against it. Like I would almost try to push the toy away. And the harder I tried to push it away, the more it would jump back into my hand, the more I'd find myself playing with it. And so it was like the toy was getting more and more powerful. The more I played with it, the more powerful it got, until it was like gaining power from me now pushing it away. So whether I played with it, like enjoyed playing with it and used it for what I used to use it for, which was like, again, fantasy or some kind of, just a kind of distraction or play. Now it was like if I did that, or if I tried to push it away and try to set it down or tried to ignore it, it would also give it power. So in a way, it was like a double bind. No matter how I interacted with this toy, it became more powerful. It started to grow, like became kind of a monster in a way. But then I noticed I was playing with it so frequently that I was like actually wearing the toy. Like it was part of who I was. It actually became intertwined with me, with my identity, or who I felt like I was. And it went from periods where I would be playing with the toy and know it, to periods where I'd be playing with the toy and not knowing it. But then I would be back, without the toy, noticing like it's not here right now. And then it progressed beyond that to where it was like, there were almost no periods where I wasn't playing with it, where I wasn't not even playing with it, but I wasn't influenced by it anymore. Now it's just more of an influence. Like it was influencing my experience, influencing my perceptions. And so that became almost solid, almost continuous, and at times continuous. And it was so uncomfortable that it actually became scary. And I remember the feeling of being so stuck in it that I could feel like there was no way out, because again, if I pushed on it, it would pull me in farther. If I clung to it, it would pull me in farther. So it was like, no matter what I did, I was sucked in farther. So the only thing I could do to avoid the fear of being stuck in this was to actually forget about it. And strangely, I would almost like actively forget that I was intertwined with this now, that this toy had like taken me over. It's not a toy anymore, of course, but this influence, whatever it was, had taken me over, and I had to just completely forget about that. But it was weird because that was a pivot point where I didn't really forget. Like I couldn't actually forget because I knew it, of course, but I could kind of actively, moment to moment, actively forget. Like I could remind myself to forget about it in a way. It was almost like I had to hide part of myself from myself to ignore the fact that it was actually really scary and uncomfortable to have this thing attached to me that was influencing my thoughts, my experience, my emotions. It was influencing my experience constantly in every respect. And that was really, really uncomfortable. And again, it became this kind of unconscious, bit of a numb state, like kind of numbness. Yeah. So as I said at the beginning of the video, like I'm going to tell my own ghost story. This is the Halloween ghost story, right? But I wanted to point out that many people can probably relate to this. And I would say probably everyone can relate to this, because what I'm talking about is the influence of thought. The influence of thought, right? It seems so simple, like, oh yeah, I'm aware most of the time, but every once in a while I have a thought. It's like, no, that's not how this works. That's the voice of the one who's forgotten how influencing those thoughts actually were. How much self-doubt is built into those thoughts, how much fear is built into the fact that you can't actually escape from thoughts, that they're controlling your experience. They're controlling the lens through which you see the world all the time. Yeah. And to the degree that you're unaware of it, that's how much numbness that can actually come into play. As I was talking about, you have to almost go numb from this and forget the fact that this is really uncomfortable. Yeah. But I think almost anyone and many people I've talked to, if they really are honest with themselves and they feel back into this and they're willing to face the kind of fear and like horror of the fact that you actually got taken over at some point by this kind of parasitic, mechanism of thought, then yeah, you'll see like, wow, okay. This has been the case for many years, and it's very uncomfortable. Now, what do we call this? We call it anxiety. We call it depression. We call it self-doubt. We call it self-sabotage. We call it all kinds of things, right? We call it the human condition. We call it the life of quiet desperation. We call it dissociation. It has a lot of names. Probably even has biblical names, you know? It could be called ego. It could even be called the devil. So that's the ultimate horror story, in my opinion. It's one that's playing out in a very real way in people all day long, every day, all over the world. And at some point, starting at a young age, early childhood towards middle childhood, you're going to start, every person is going to start actually experiencing this. And they're going to go through those stages until it becomes pretty solidified, and they've forgotten that happened, and they've become hypnotized by their own thoughts, and then hypnotized by the collective thought process that can move and morph and influence large groups of people to do crazy things, right? You see it in the world. So that's my Halloween horror story. Can you relate to it?